Hello, everybody. Perfect timing, young dog. Perfect timing. As we go into Hippie versus Sotek. Hippie versus Sotek, everybody. The WARNO monthly tournament series is back. As we're waiting with the WARNO leaks until we get back into... until launch of the game with WARNO League Season 1 dropping when the game drops. Until then, we will have a small couple of tournaments again. WARNO League Super Tournament was obviously a big one in between. With that one having $400 of prize pool here, it's just for keeping the people in shape. But we still have a great lineup here. We have Tiberius Rancor, semi-finalist of the WARNO League Super Tournament. We have Phoenix, the first one, the Chinese one, who is the Division 1 player. Phoenix, second place in WARNO League Season 1, semi-finalist in WARNO League Super Tournament. Hippie, always scary, semi-finalist in the WARNO League Super Tournament as well. Lathans, Medi, Dark Neutron, Duro, SVK is around, Fantix is around, so the two finalists of the WARNO League Super Tournament are here as well. So it's a top-notch tournament, and we are here to have some fun and some enjoyable games here. And the first map that we are on is Two Links, and we have an interesting matchup. Sotek on the left, coming in with the 8th US Infantry. It's Hippie on the right, is already starting with some cheese, as this is Hippie, and this had to be done, right? Mirage bombing the road here as an opener, as Hippie is bringing around the Berlin command. And nothing else I would have expected out of it. Hippie. Yeah. Spawn road. If it's not slightly toxic, it's not a Hippie game. But good defense here against Hippie Detachment Ace from Sotek. This Detachment A should not have a great time, as the Cobra is doing a good defense. But a lot of other extra units from the rear already rolling in. North, Hippie is completely open, but Sotek not having really the pushing power to come in there. Hippie will keep up the pressure around here in the south, as we have a good enough amount of Engineer Flash coming in to hit the LRS. Ooh, Mistral gets the Cobra here already. Harrier flying around, but not going to find any kills, as the OH helicopter did land. That one won't come around for now. Two Mistrals and two Pivots around in the rear though. But the defense of Sotek is standing. Engineer Flash completely getting annihilated here in the open, and this push of Hippie not working out. Sotek currently on a +3. So that is looking good, and Hippie is behind in points on the battlefield now for sure. Has the big bomber that can come around later again. Air superiority fighters on the side of Sotek, rather lackluster. All F-16s not fantastic, but you have great airplanes, for example with the A-10s, which are coming around currently to try to get some pivot kills over there. Mistrals deal decent damage now against them though, so if you get hit here, you have to be careful. Gets the kill on one pivot, but the Harrier gets it killed together with the Mistrals and the Javelin. Good kill there for Hippie, killing off the first A-10, and that is really important. If A-10 numbers get out of control, you will have an annoying time with Berlin Command. Berlin Command, the division that I currently play the most. I mostly play them around the Berlin Light Rifles and the BGS and Detachment A infantry strength, together with some MX-30Bs as some cheap tanks with autocannons behind that, and then a lot of manpads and a lot of pivots, and then some Nighthawks to do the bombing. Nighthawk is not what we see here from Hippie, and we also don't see any Berlin light rifles just yet. We see L6 Wombats, which I know a lot of people like them. I'm not 100% convinced they're worth it in the deck where you have the Berlin light rifles. The Nighthawk though, obviously really, really gorgeous. Dropping its first guided bomb there. Second guided bomb coming out right after. Gets the M60. First one, Hippie didn't wait to let it guide onto target, so yeah, first one didn't hit anything, but second one gets the M60. And the Nighthawk will get the hell out of there. We have some sharp prowls and pivots coming in here for Sotek. And a couple of cheap helicopters for Hippie. Hippie gets the kill, but hasn't advanced too far forward yet. 155mm. Coming around, and the amount of infantry for Hippie is super low. Like, there's basically no infantry whatsoever. There's a couple of recon in the north. We have now the first Berlin light rifle coming in the north, as some engineered dragons are coming in for Sotek. We will see the Freiwillige Polizeireserve hitting on and meeting the engineer flash, which is not great for these disheartened units, as the engineer flash will already annihilate them in the forest anyways, but they also will be stunned for a long time, and will have really little firepower here against the engineer flash. So even though the engineer flash only come with 5 men, they should be able to win this fight. Already have the enemy lower at 4 hit points now, and they will continue hitting. As Sotek and Hippie have their zones captured now, but Sotek has a slight point advantage, which should be enough to get the W. And Hippie is bringing in more units now in the north, which is interesting. As if Sotek can push through here completely in the south, and can push towards Delta, obviously that would be really rough for Hippie. Hippie coming around with a Nighthawk again. We'll try to get a bombing run, but the F-16 Fighting Falcon is actually out in the skies right at that moment. And that Nighthawk has to get the hell out of there. Does the Nighthawk see it? No. The Fighting Falcon see the Nighthawk? No. Nighthawk not spotted. Sorry. Nighthawk not spotted. Fighting Falcon is flying around here, but Nighthawk is pushed back for now. Meanwhile, Freiwillige Polizeireserve holding out over here. Artillery coming in from the rear. Ito not being defeated. More M60s rolling in onto the front. Whilst we have a good amount of Gazelle rockets towards the north. K4 Milans and L6 Wombats. We'll try to get around here. M3A1 Bradley. Going into a defensive position. And we have 162 to 14 points still on the scoreboard. And I don't think that will change anytime soon. Both not really having the aggressive forces of capturing a point immediately. But I would say Sotek's position currently for sure the favorable one. As both divisions, not the best in the late game, but they scale pretty decently. And they both have a decent mid and late game. With the artillery advantage on Sotek's side. But the infantry advantage slightly on Hippie's side, and the air being a weird spot for both sides. The air is a pretty weird spot for both sides. As you have the better air superiority fighters, but they're not fantastic on Sotek's side. You have the A-10, which is really strong as a ground attacker. But on the other side, you have the Nighthawks and the Mirage force. So there is some really big potential for big explosions on the side of Hippie's air tap. So we gotta see how those will be used. Helicopter-wise, I believe we already saw most of what we were gonna see. As it's only a couple of Cobras, which we already saw a couple of them dying for Sotek, and then Gazelles mostly, and some Lynx possibly for Hippie, but he already lost a good couple of Gazelle rockets. And there, yeah, we have a Lynx with a hell arm here as well now. On the battlefield with the Ito. Meanwhile in the north, Bradley's moving in, getting closer. So this should hold out. Pivot moving forward. Military police checking it out over here. Could use some resupply. And engineer flash could come in the south. Harrier GR3AA once more out here. Beautiful, beautiful plane, but just that bit slow. It's not great at intercepting most things. It's decent enough though at killing off A-10s, as A-10s are even slower. So in this matchup it's actually not too terrible. And its 230mm guns have some stopping power, but the F-16 has the advantage when it comes to missile systems, especially the Sparrow, giving it a lot better range. And the F-16 comes out ahead here in that 1 versus 1 duel against the Lovely, lovely. A Harrier. Meanwhile, Hippie bringing around his favorite unit. Our British cheese player here with the foxes rolling in onto the battlefield. But on this map, they are not too easy to use, as you can't really flank with them. Foxes have amphibious, so you potentially could try to ship them over the lake, but it's relatively easily spotted. You don't have any cover there. There's no islands or so you can behind here. The most likely position for an amphibious movement is over here, but other than that, the forests on the sides are relatively small. You cannot move through the middle really into the enemy rear either, so Fox is not as easy to use as on other maps for hitting the enemy in the rear. We have another Harrier moving around here. It hasn't found the OH-58 though, and the Fighting Falcon is coming around once more. Another F-16 is out here, looking out to try to get the kill, but on the ground, currently, a bit of a lull. Both sides going into the entrenched positions. It's one of the slower games on this map. This map either is really explosive with a permanent duel in one of the cities, or if that doesn't come up, I mean, Hippie tried to get there. This map often can lead to a bit of a stalemate, and then people maneuvering for power, trying to set up a big push. Currently, I would say push power still not where it needs to be for either side to do a bigger attack though. We have some M1 IPs moving in the north, a Lynx with a Hellarm coming around, trying to maybe find a shot onto a Bradley. If the Bradley dies, the M1 IP over here could find a good attack maybe in the north. Chaparral gets the Lynx out of the sky. Good kill there. That one is down. Important kill. Yes, you don't get that many. Meanwhile, the Berlin command is getting more of their tanks onto the battlefield. Chieftain Mark 10 coming on here in the south in its Berlin camouflage, whilst the 8th Infantry is holding their ground here. Ito firing a missile versus a Raiden. Getting the kill there. The FV-432s with only one frontal armor can be killed by basically anything that has some sense of armor penetration. So you really gotta be careful of them. But their autocannon is pretty affordable. And if you can get it onto some soft targets, it can do a lot of harm. Meanwhile, M1 IP here, getting microed by Hippie against the Engineer Dragon and the Bradley. A Bradley side shot would kill it, so it has to be careful. And even a frontal hit of a TOW 2 against the M1 IP would be rather painful. But the M1 IP gets the shot first, gets the kill here, and the Bradley goes down. So some really good maneuvering here with that tank. This tank really, really valuable here for Hippie in the north. Has to be careful though to protect it against something like this Predator over here. A10 with ATGMs under its wings. Really, really scary. The AGM 65D Mavericks can do a lot of harm into an M1 IP. Especially if they hit side armor. And the the GAU 8 gun also can do a lot of damage. F-16 once more trying to catch a Harrier. Won't be able to succeed though. Meanwhile, we have another Mirage 4 coming in. Another heavy bombardment unit trying to move around, trying to find some kills onto something with radar. Won't be able to succeed. Will come around here one more time. It's really, really fast. And with its seed missiles, it also can protect itself a bit. Whilst we also have a Nighthawk now coming in. So a lot of bombardment here coming in from Hippie's side. First bomb is flying. Gets the M1A1 over there off Sotek. And now the Mirage HE coming in as well. A lot of bombardment here coming out of Hippie now. Gets a good amount of kills there. This Mirage is super expensive though. It costs you 330 points, so it needs to deal a lot of damage to pay off. But at the same time, Sotek not able to find anything with his A10 in the north. So good trade here for Hippie, not losing any planes, dealing some good damage on the ground, whilst not allowing Sotek to do any major harm to him. And the M1 IP finds another target here. Berlin Light Rifles down to 1 hit point, but as long as they survive, you can bring them up to full strength. You only need a supply truck, and supply trucks are already in position. So this is a pretty solid situation here now for Hippie in that regard. Sotek, I would still say, has a relatively good venting point here to maybe try to go into Delta, but I'm not sure there is enough coming here to ever try to do that. It feels like Sotek is not really trying any aggression here. Whilst we have some F4 432 Raidens moving around. Javelin gets 2 hits into the A10. Javelin LML in the building there, but doesn't get the kill. Would have needed the third one to try to get close to that one. But the Hippie's plane will get out alive. Sotek's plane will get out alive. Will take a long time to repair though. Repair time on these planes is rather sizable. You will need a long time to get it around again. That's the Ito over here. Gets the kill onto a pivot. Always nice. Ito pretty potent against all the enemy tanks on the other side, with Berlin Command having some good tanks, but not quite having the top end. Like Chieftain Mark 10s, relatively capable, obviously much better than T-55s or M60s, and M1IP also pretty potent, but it's not an M1A1, it's not a Challenger 2, so you lack a bit of the high end, with 8th Infantry at least having the M1A1 in their arsenal, so they have the best tank in this match for sure, with Chieftains not really standing a chance there, and the M1IP, especially due to range disadvantages and so on, being a bit outclassed there as well. M1A1 here with better penetration and better range. When they fight at 2,100 meters, when they can shoot both at each other, the M1A1 has 3 penetration more, and that's quite a sizable advantage. Accuracy-wise, they are on par. Rate of fire-wise, they are on par as well. And the M1IP here got the first shot. And as it's somewhat closer, that is good for Hippie. But in the end, Hippie's one gets out with only 1 hit point. And even though there was 1 more hit on the M1A1 of Sotek, it gets out with 2 hit points. Still not something you feel comfortable with though. So you want to repair it, you want to get it back out there. And then you maybe want to get the kill this time around. Whilst the artillery here in the rear is trying to get some shots into this. Freiwillige Polizeireserve as the super cheap infantry. There's 2 ways of playing Berlin Command. Like either you play it around its cheap infantry and then good combined arms behind that, and you A-click with that. And you get all the cheap... I'm surprised we see the chieftains here and no AMX-30s. Like usually you see a lot of AMX-30s behind cheap infantry. Or you go with the better infantry section with Berlin light rifles. And a lot of those that can defend themselves against anything they need to come up with. Thanks to their recoilless rifle being able to deal damage against any kind of armor. And also against soft targets. On a pretty sizable range. But infantry-wise, it's mostly cheap stuff here for Hippie. A couple of rifles now coming around. Those are fantastic against anything coming too close vehicle-wise as well. Law 80 deals a good amount of damage. They're a bit cheaper than the Berlin light rifles, but they don't quite have the fire output against infantry. But that's what you have the Foxes for. The Fox here really helping out with its autocannon. Chieftain can do some damage as well. This Engineer Flash for sure is a gunner now. So, a bit of an advantage here now from Hippie in the south. And Sotek has to figure out what to do about it. We got artillery guns on both sides now as well. With Sotek bombarding the position here of Hippie in the north. As we have some Fighting Falcons coming around for Harrier. Good couple of Harrier AA around. Fighting Falcons not hitting long range, but getting the other one over here. Will retreat over some potential AA over here, but all the manpads of Hippie died there. And the Harrier AA has to be careful. Ihawk is out of ammo for now, but the pivots have enough time on target. And a second Harrier goes down as well, and that's all Harriers down for Hippie. You only get 3 there. So no AA left for Hippie, which might allow helicopters, if there's still a couple of Cobras, to be a bit used a bit more aggressively here by Sotek, and also helps out the A-10s to stay alive. Though the ground-based AA still obviously is a part of this. And the bombers of Hippie don't need protection per se. The Mirage 4 can be fast enough to get out of there, in and there and out of there, before the F-16s can really intercept it. And the Nighthawk obviously is hidden, so it has some advantages there as well. But it's not gonna be easy here now for Hippie to keep air superiority and stop the A-10s of the enemy. Meanwhile, counter battery against the mortars of Sotek in the north from Hippie, which is rather scary though, as his artillery pieces are only normal howitzers. They're not self-propelled. They're not protected against any blast. They're just standing out here in the open. So using them like this can be risky. If the M109 gets the counter battery on you here, especially on this one, you might be in trouble. Really slow and methodical game here from both sides, as the M60 goes down to the engineered dragon. I'm not sure who has the better traits lately. I feel like it's Hippie, especially in the south. The position here for our player in blue seems to be a bit better, but with his loss of the air units and so on, Sotek still for sure is in this. Oh, at the meantime though, M109 under counter battery fire. The 155mm actually might be able to take it out. Sotek not keeping it maneuvering. And that would be quite the reverse card here, with the 155mm howitzer destroying the self-propelled howitzer. Not something you see every day. Nighthawk comes around in the north. It will fly into stingers and pivots though. And the pivots are getting close to shooting it down. They won't quite succeed. But 2 hit points means that this Nighthawk is out of it for quite a while. That Nighthawk won't come back anytime soon. Chieftain Mark 10, meanwhile, in the south, gets to hit the engineer flash. M1 Abrams trying to disengage. As the LRS and the engineer flash over here have to be really careful as well. Ihawk could use some resupply, and for sure needs to get the hell out of there. This is way too far forward. And Sotek not having the units necessary to defend in the south right now, in my eyes. Which is a problem, as Hippie is mounting up the pressure again here, with some chieftains, with some pivots, engineer flash in the south, in a decent position as well. And, ooh, Mirage force in the north, with a lot of bombardment, but not with a lot of hits. Okay, Hippie, that was rather ineffective for two such so expensive planes, but at least they don't really get damaged. Did he get the pivot? No, the pivot did survive as well. And a helicopter here going down. The Stingers do their job. M109 howitzer still alive, as we have some counter battery of Hippie's howitzers against the self-propelled mortars. Sotek needs to be careful there. Well, Sotek also needs to bring in reinforcements in the south. They are coming, but the Ihawk goes down. Yeah, that should have never been there in the first place. Ihawk is perfectly fine behind your town here. You never need to bring it that close to the front line. It has an amazing range. Also, M1 Abrams in the south has to be really careful against the Chieftain Mark 10. Is already down to 1 hit point. I hope it can get out of there and can get resupplied. Ito in the north might be able to get a pivot. No, not quite. And Hippie is looking like they might have another attack here onto the southern town. They might have another attack onto that town there. Ito moving around, getting the Humvee. 155mm. Trying to get the kill in the north. Mortar not getting hit. M1A1 Abrams rolling in. Berlin light rifles. We'll get the kill of the recoilless rifle there. That's why they're so scary. That's why these guys in the bushes here are really a force to reckon with. We have a couple of gazelles in the rear. Surprisingly few Berlin light rifles. Usually you would expect more of them, but Hippie now has an assault in the south again. And I'm not sure if Sotek is ready for this yet. More reinforcements coming in. M1 Abrams is in it. A couple of HMGs. A couple of Rangers. And another Thunderbolt. Let's see if this one can hit the mark. Might try to go for the Chieftains here. Currently just flying forward. as the AA situation down here is rather lackluster. We have one Mistral in the rear, we have one Pivot relatively far in the rear, and we have one Javelin LML really far back, and also in a position where it can only fire into this arc and will struggle to get any major kills. Thunderbolt gets the M1 IP here. Ooh, but Mistral from the north and Pivot from the north do get a lot of hits, and the Javelin LML actually finishing the job from up here. Oh yeah, that Thunderbolt strayed a bit too far into the northern section of the map, and there the AA of Hippie is a good bit better. Javelin LML for sure an interesting weapon, with its 3 rapid firing Javelin shots, but also with slow movement speed, so it's not as mobile as normal Javelin squads. M109's coming around in the rear, and it's still a slight advantage here for Sotek. 15 minutes remaining, but Hippie is getting into position where they could potentially try to contest this town now, whilst Sotek is still a bit out. There is potential for Sotek coming in here as well, but Sotek haven't quite reached this spot quite yet. M1 Abrams hitting the Polizeireserve. Chieftain Mark 10 trying to hit the terrain over here. Ito trying to defend himself. Rarden getting a hit. Getting hit there by the Ito. Second one smokes out. Chieftain Mark 10 still around. M1 Abrams not quite up there in the fight, and goes down to it as well. Artillery coming in from Hippie, as there was no counter battery whatsoever onto these 155mm ever from Sotek. And Sotek needs to find a way in here. Smoke coming up, so these units are on their way now. There's a CV in the rear as well. There's an M1A1 coming in. There are a couple of M60s for the south, but Hippie might be able to make a push here in the south now as well. 13 minutes and 50 seconds remaining. Meanwhile, a couple of Polizeireserve coming in. Gazelle rockets moving in here as well. Chieftain Mark 10 in its Berlin camouflage scheme rolling in here. Hippie really liking the chieftains. I'm surprised that we didn't see any AMX-30s this game. AMX-30s are fantastic for their cheap price, especially thanks to the autocannon. Harrier cluster coming in, and there's currently not enough AA here to stop it before it drops, most likely. Oh, as I say that, okay, they drop, but they miss the target, and the F-16 come around and get the kill immediately afterwards. So good kill there for Sotek, not losing much. As I said that though, another Mirage 4 strike is inbound, and the pivot will go down. Chapral not really in a position to get any kills here, as the Mirage 4 is maneuvering around, and we only have an F111 on the other side. So countering hit with hit is Sotek here. Bombs are dropping. Berlin light rifles and Freiwillige Polizeireserve on the ground under heavy bombardment. F111F is heavily hit, has to go home. Down to 2 hit points. Ooh, there we go. F111 bites the dust. Will crash into the ground, as we have another A10 Thunderbolt coming in the south. LRS holding the frontal part of the town. I'm not sure why they're not firing back here. Sotek must have turned off the weapons by accident, and that's obviously not fantastic. Chieftain is stunned in the meantime. Chieftain in the rear gets hit by Thunderbolt, hit as well. Gets stunned as well. So Thunderbolt doing its job here. Softening up the enemy tanks. M60s potentially could finish them. Fireteam and Engineer Flash holding out in the south pretty nicely as well. And Hippie will struggle to get in here. 11 minutes and 30 seconds remaining. Is there ECV on the map now? Yeah, Hippie has an AMX-30. There's still the one in the north for Sotek, as we have the 50 cal here firing away. M1A1's under missile fire, as we have another brute coming in here. That plane goes down as well, though. And we have another F-17 Nighthawk flying in the north. Not that much AA here. But if it goes too deep, it might still get hit by the Chaparrals and the Stingers, and that would still come down to a kill. Ooh, Chaparral out of ammo. The Nighthawk heavily hit. Might be able to come around one more time with this amount of damage on it. But it will take a good while. Meanwhile, F-16 flying around. And the south is cleared by Sotek. By Hippie. Sotek only having the Fireteam 84 here now. Good couple of Rangers coming in. Special Forces will try to hold the town. Aito is desperately trying to come in there as well. But the tanks... Sotek really not good at preserving any M1A1s. Like, the M1A1s and M1s, so far the least efficient units for Sotek on the battlefield. His aircraft and his infantry did a good job, but tanks really not surviving against Hippie at all here. And Hippie's chieftains actually might allow the AMX-30B command here to get into this zone, and then it would be a +3 for Hippie. Sotek under pressure now. AMX-30B now rolling in here. Berlin light rifles trying to slowly come up as well. Thunderbolt. Does it find the kill onto the chieftain? It will find the kill onto the chieftain. Second chieftain not going down. Lynx in the rear though going down. Next chieftain heavily hit, down to 1 hit point. And Thunderbolt has to get the hell out of here. It has to get the hell out of there. M1A1 rolling on onto the battlefield. But it's a +3 now for Hippie, and that most likely will allow Hippie to get ahead in points. Unless... Oh, as I say that, unless Sotek captures the north quickly, but Sotek already in here. P4 for Hippie is around as well. And this one might get really, really close. Engineer Dragons stand down in the north. Couple of M60 MGs sitting around there as well. F111HE. Oh, does it wipe out the enemy CV here? Nope. It hits the Berlin light rifles pretty heavily, but it doesn't get the kill. Meanwhile, Hippie with a Mirage 4E might find the kill onto the CV here. Yes, CV in the north goes down. Stinger's not good enough to finish off the Mirage. And this means that Hippie now should be up. Oh, as I said that, the Rangers find the kill onto the CV of Hippie in the south as well. So no more take for Hippie either. And this is still advantage Sotek, but this might get really, really close. Is there a new CV on the battlefield yet? Okay, CV coming up for Hippie. Is there another CV on the other side? Yes, there is. Both sides rushing their CVs to the enemy zone again. But both sides also lacking a bit the support and the escort for it. M1A1 moving around the flank. Gets the kill onto the enemy AA. Chieftain versus M1A1 might be the next battle here. Supply truck goes down. Tow Cobra coming up, and with this pivot just going down, the Tow Cobra there in a good spot. Could be really, really helpful for Sotek. Meanwhile, in the north, Sotek's CV still a long bit from the front line. As we have the M1A1 here in the south maneuvering into better positions. Not many good anti-tank weapons left around it. But there is still the Chieftain, and the Chieftain gets a side shot! Gets the kill! M1A1 there maneuvering a bit too carelessly. Once more, Sotek with the miss micro on the tank. Once more, getting punished for it. Cluster bomber here, going a bit deep for Hippie. But Hippie might now be able to get the P4 in there and start to get the closer to victory here. Whilst we have a good couple of Rangers on the left side. CV coming in the north, Engineer struggling a bit there, and Hippie has it now in the south. Tow Cobra moving around, only a couple of Rangers here for Sotek, but they are special forces, they can stand their ground pretty decently. Bit low on hit points, Engineer Dragons in the north, getting pinned down by the ACAV and the Tow Cobra, will get finished off before they can do any more harm, but there is another bombing strike. Mirage 4 coming in with another good hit onto the Rangers here potentially, but it does whiff this time. Doesn't get any hits. Military police coming around. Tow Cobra coming around as well. And in the north, We have Sotek's CV closing in, but it's still... It's Hippie really getting close now to getting the advantage. Only a couple of seconds away now. Hippie now with more points. For now, it will be a draw. And as I say that, Hippie loses CV in the south. So it's a really, really small advantage currently for Hippie. And it's Sotek with the closer CV right now to the front line. It will be super tense here now. If Sotek can get that CV in here, that would be super impressive. But the Rarden is having something against that. Smoke needs to come around. Smoke will be dropped here right now. M1A1 coming up as well. 5 minutes and 30 seconds remaining here. And Hippie will need another CV. Another CV coming up onto the battlefield. Fireteam 84 moving forward as well. As we have a tow cobra around here. We have a good couple of rifles from Hippie moving forward. But the defensive position here of Sotek not half bad either. Sapper Flam with their flamethrower trying to do some damage. Engineers coming around as well. And it's super, super close here. Game number 1 of this monthly tournament. Absolute banger already. Hippie and Sotek playing out quite nicely here. Akev getting a nice shot. But we have some M109s here in the rear. Trying to get some more smoke up on front. CV went down here for Sotek though. Sotek will need another CV in the north. M1A1 rolling in up in the north. As we have a good amount of infantry here. That still needs to go in closer. Try to prevent Hippie from getting another CV in here. Next CV being invested into by Sotek in the north. Will take a while there to get up north. He potentially still has this one that could move around as well. As Hippie most likely won't be able to get into Sotek's area either. Yeah, that as I say that, Sotek actually starts moving this one. So 2 CVs moving up in the north. And this looks like a Hippie victory here so far. If Hippie can get the CV in. But Sotek still has the potential of striking back. And this CV is obviously anything but safe. But Hippie now getting into good advantages. Ooh, but leaves it completely open. Sotek actually getting a good amount of infantry here now. And it's only 30 points different now. So Sotek, can Sotek get this in here in the north? Lost the mortars. Mortars both executed by the 155mm counter battery. Hippie doing a really good job there. And Sotek never realizing that what he's fighting against actually is not self-propelled artillery, but just some towed howitzers that his M109 could have taken out a long time ago. But Hippie still with a slight advantage here. Another CV on the way. 3 minutes on the clock. Hippie just desperately tries to get more points onto the clock. As the fight down here is rough. And Sotek is still a good bit away from the zone in the north. Hippie loses another chieftain there though. Good kill for Sotek. But Sotek still needs to get a CV into that zone there. M109 of Sotek now under heavy fire as well. And this is not looking good for Sotek right now. Hippie most likely will be able to get his M1IP CV in here in the south. As there's also no anti-tank on any of these. Oh no, there's the Rangers, but they are out of 84s by now, so no AT weapon for them either. So this M1IP here can just drive in and get Hippie some points, and that's a big, big problem. As Sotek is about around now to get some CVs into the north now as well, but you still need to take out the enemy tank here, and only 2 minutes and 5 seconds remaining. Not sure if Sotek maybe has some planes. Okay, yeah, F111HE is the attempt. Bombs are dropping. Hippie not reacting just yet, so that might be the end of the M1IP. And then Sotek just needs long enough time in the north. No, F111 not getting the kill. Bombs dropped, not good enough. Meanwhile, Harrier cluster coming in for the CV Mutts. Oh, and they're both really close to each other right now. If they die both, that would be devastating. They're both really close to each other. Oh. Okay, no, both get through. Hippie has slightly more than 100 points advantage now. 120 points advantage. And more needs to be done here for Sotek to try to stop that. Only 1 minute 20, but 1 minute 20 would be enough to at least get equilibrium with a +3 here for Sotek. He just needs it right now, right here. He needs to take out this M1IP. Rangers, just not having any AT4s and left anymore. That's painful. Laws coming in, and now we are below 1 minute. At which point, Sotek only can play for draw now with 120 points in the north. If he could get a +6, that would be different, but +3 here now in the north right now would maybe still get him a draw. For now, this time is ticking on, and Hippie down to only 1 tank and 1 AA piece, but there's just no infantry AT whatsoever left on Sotek's side of things here down in the south. If it infantry AT would have been coming around like a minute ago, this already would look different, as Sotek goes up to a +3 right now, but I'm not sure if it's good enough anymore. Only 20 seconds remaining. And the CV dies immediately as well, so 100 points advantage. Slightly more than that for Hippie, and that is not good enough. 10 seconds here remaining for both players. 5 seconds now, and this is gonna be it. And this is gonna be a Hippie minor victory in a really, really intense game, number 1 of the monthly tournament here. GGVP to both players. Well played by Hippie. Really well done. It was a clutch game, but in the end, Hippie just plays us a bit better, and there we got it. There we got it. Mirage for getting a good amount of kills. Nighthawk getting some nice stuff done as well, but yeah, in the end, it's mostly in my eyes the armored play that did the difference, with Hippie just being a bit better than Sotek there in this game. We'll see if this will be the same in game number 2. In this one, Hippie's cheese did fail a bit, but still able to recover from it. Let's see if cheese... Game number 2 between Sotek and Hippie and the monthly tournament of February for WARNO. And we have a different matchup this time, as we have the 35th Airborne here for Sotek, and for Hippie on the other side we have 3rd US Armored coming around. So that is going to be interesting. But before we jump in, if you guys want to get into some competitive play, into some tournaments, next Friday might be the chance for you, as we have the 6th Friday night WARNO event coming up next week. And as always in with these events, they also, as always, I will be joined by some Eugen team members. And this time it's a special one, because this time I'm joined for the first time by 3 Eugen members. And the reason behind it, that is the map creation team from Eugen. And we will have it as a map-focused Friday night WARNO. I will play a 2v2 tournament, in the 2v2 tournament with Sire Tatastikot Le Maguili. I butchered that on purpose. Obviously, I would know how to pronounce it right. I just don't want to. And yeah, Sadokar and MTGG will join us as well. The other 2 members of the Eugen map team. And we will talk about map development. You can ask questions in the chat if you're around on Twitch chat, and answer, and they will answer as much as they can. And talk a bit about how maps are created over at Eugen. So feel free to come around, feel free to join in the chat, and all of that happening next Friday on the 17th of February. And yeah, if you want to kick my ass and the maybe the one of Eugen team member as well, Friday night WARNO is up for signups. Get yourself a teammate and come in and have a bit of a nice single elimination tournament for 3 or 4 hours next Friday. Especially if you're in European times, it should be somewhat convenient. For the Americans, it's a bit early, maybe. But yeah, it is always a bit tough with those one-day tournaments. And obviously it has to be somewhat comfortable for the Eugen team members. I'm really looking forward to that. Yeah, let's have a look on how this year goes now. As we have 3rd US coming in on the right. And we have a couple of Stingers coming up there. A couple of LRSs. A couple of Scouts coming in as well. Apache with rockets coming forward as well. And yeah, we might have some more tournaments coming in that regard as well. I have some talks with a couple of organizers for WARNO as well. yeah, Greenhorn tournament would be interesting as well. For now, I mean, up till now, I would say like it was pretty hard to decide who is Greenhorn, who is not. So yeah, it's the classic, yeah. And here we go, guys. Hippie versus Sotek, game number 2. Sotek coming in with the 35th with a lot of forward deployment. Hippie coming in with a good amount of LRS, a good amount of engineer flashes, an Apache, and an F111 napalm. It wouldn't be a Hippie game without something like this, right? And that road is blocked. MiG-29 coming around here from the other side. So these units will have to find another way in. F111 gets shut down, MiG-29 on a good job, doing a good job there. But the rush of Sotek is going to struggle now. Can't go down this road. Napalm was there. MiG-29 though will get the OH Scout at least. Won't get much damage onto the Apache just yet. And will have to be careful to not get shut down as the pivot opens fire there. Mi-24 AA helicopters though get the kill onto the Apache as well. And that's some good hits here for Sotek. Spetsnaz moving forward. LRS is under fire as well. And let's see how this goes. Mi-8 under heavy fire by the pivot. But that was some really important losses there for Sotek. For Hippie. Can Sotek now deal with the rest with his helicopters? Helicopters dealing a lot of damage and Hippie's lines not looking so crisp right now. A-10 coming around. But a D-44 anti-tank guns came in here on the side now. Pivot has to be careful. Is trying to move forward. A-10 moving around. D-44 hits up the pivot. And the A-10 will get a kill onto some Mi-24s. First one going down. Second one might fall as well. Hippie still in the town. And I'm not sure who is ahead now. Spetsnaz still moving around. And Hippie on a +3. D-44s coming around. A-10 did survive. That would have gone down. I would say it would still be Sotek ahead. With it being still alive and Sotek losing the planes. Might be a bit less clear. Another A-10 coming in. There's no air on the other side. There's no AA on the side of Sotek either. D-44, next one going down to a military police with a recoilless rifle. Dejan Saperis here, fighting in the town. Dejan Saperis on both sides. Engineer flash hitting hard as well, as the town is burning. And another A-10 is sharking around in the rear, waiting for some targets to appear. Won't find many armored targets, but its gun is still good enough to deal with infantry as well, and helicopters get absolutely shredded by it. Whilst the M113s here are moving forward. Spetsnaz OP will have to find a better position. The Otleni Podechki with the RPG-29. As the other Spetsnaz get decimated here by the 50 cals. Otleni Podechki goes down to the engineer flash. Ooh. Military police getting some nice snipes here on the outskirt of the town as well. And this is an absolute massacre on both sides here. But the military police killing off some Spetsnaz in transport. Really, really big. Spetsnaz super expensive now with 80 points. Taking some heavy damage. More Spetsnaz trying to come in. CV coming in here for Sotek as well. A-10 Thunderbolt now on the hunt for the Spetsnaz. No MiG-29 in the skies. Nothing here to help out that Spetsnaz squad. 2 more Spetsnaz on the road. Might be in big trouble as well. Dejan Saperi can't really protect himself here against this. And the CV goes down to the A-10. Spetsnaz out in the open. Another Spetsnaz OP coming up. Some T-64s, but this A-10 still in disguise. Apache coming up as well. No MiG-29. Big mistake here by Sotek. Not having another one of these ready right now. Or at least some resemblance of AA. As I would say, Hippie is going really far ahead now. These kills on the reinforcing Spetsnaz really, really big. And I feel like Hippie now has the north relatively safely. And here we go. Sotek seemingly sees it the same way. Maybe a slightly early surrender, but yeah, that assault had failed. Hippie was slightly ahead in kills and had the way better position now. And that A-10 still could have killed a lot of units. And with that, Hippie gets the 2-0 victory in this week number 1. Hey, Ravslando. Hello, hello. Welcome. And cheers. How's it tour? Yeah, GGVP here. 2 Hippie. Getting it. 2-0 in the first matchup of the WARNO monthly tournament. With more coming in over the next couple of days. There's a couple of games already played. There's a lot of them scheduled, so I would say it will most likely be smooth sailing for now, as all the players are motivated. And yeah, we're gonna go into a bit of rank play now. So yeah, more WARNO monthly coming your way over the next couple of days. And yeah, this also coming your way. Friday night WARNO. And then we have some Steel Division announcements, quite a couple, coming up in the next couple of days. And there will be a Steel Division tournament-related stream on Saturday morning. So yeah, I will cast the the finals of the Chinese 2v2 tournaments together with Fliegerabteilung. I'm really looking forward to that. I haven't casted Steel Division 2v2s in a while. They usually are quite entertaining. So really looking forward to that as well. Fliegerabteilung is doing a great job over there at in China, organizing those tournaments, and the Chinese community in general, pretty big thanks to those guys there, doing a great job.